One Piece live action. Tell no tales. What's going on, guys? It is your favorites, Dano, aka Cobra Concept, and
Garrett, aka Desperate Saint.
we are back with another little recap breakdown of One Piece, the live action. We're going to start it out with episode 3. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to combine into episode 4. So, you guys remember us from episode 1 and 2. We're going to break down Tell No Tales. It is 58 minutes long. And the summary for this episode: in need of a proper ship, the gang reaches Syrup Village, and they meet the cheerful Usopp and his best friend Kaya. A sinister threat disrupts their plans. Dun dun dun.
Oh man! So to start out the episode, we see a young Usopp from about 7 years ago, I think is what it said, running through the village, screaming, "The pirates are coming! The pirates are coming!" And you see it continue and continue, and you start to realize it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf, and they realize it's just to get a reaction out of everybody. And after that, the One Piece logo pops up, and again they kill these logo introductions, the title cards, because they use Usopp's Jolly Roger with the big nose, which you don't get in the live action, unfortunately, and his slingshot.
Yeah. And then also the hammer, or like the rubber mallet that you would use for shipbuilding, also as the eye in Peace. So very, very cool to see not only the Jolly Rogers, but something that they love to use in the anime itself.
They did the research for sure.
They really did. But I agree. They kill it with those intros. They're super cool. And not only that, but it is just such a clean visual to start off every episode. You always kind of wonder who's going to be next. Who's going to be the next visual we see? So, of course, we've seen Luffy. We've seen Buggy. Now we've got Usopp. I wonder what Soda Kings looks like, you know?
I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll have to. Hopefully, we get another season and we can get close to Water 7. See how that works.
Yeah, maybe. So, the cool thing about that, like you said, kind of boy crying wolf feeling from Usopp. I like that little transition there, kind of getting you into the idea of Syrup Village prior to already getting into Syrup Village. We're starting it out right after the Jolly Roger with Nami going through the Grand Line map. She's checking it out, trying to figure out where we need to go next. She's clearly looking towards the Grand Line, where we're going. But about that same time, we see Luffy run up to Nami, and he shows off what he thinks is their Jolly Roger and what they should display on their ship.
Perfect.
Oh, it was absolutely perfect.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. The best drawing I have ever seen of the Straw Hat Pirate. This is an iconic moment for all One Piece fans, whether you are a manga reader, the anime enjoyer, or if you are watching the live action for the first time. This is an iconic scene. We love it. It is so funny. I love the fact that he can't draw worth a crap.
And it was so well done. It looked exactly like the drawing in the anime too. Oh, it's hilarious.
It was spot on.
It was.
To kind of put into perspective, after we show off this Jolly Roger, Zoro comes out and he says, "Hey, the bathroom's leaking." And of course, everybody's like, "What in the world? There's no bathroom on the ship," which is hilarious. Zoro would be the one to think it was a bathroom or something.
He would.
Realizes that the ship is leaking. They're taking on water. And, on that last episode, we were talking about Nami contacting somebody for the transponder snail, the in-ear transponder snail that we had never seen before. That was weird. It all got flooded. The transponder snail took on some water, which I guess is seawater, and salt and snails don't go well together, is my taking on it. So of course that does not work. A lot of her supplies have taken on water as well, and it kind of looks like all hope is lost for her. They realize that they need to find a new ship. They need to ditch this one, let it sink. And so they choose the closest spot to land their ship. So they head for the Gecko Islands, or in specific, Syrup Village, in hopes of finding a new ship.
And after that, we pan over and we get we're on Garp's ship, and we can see a bunch of the cadets are tying knots and doing tedious work, chore work around the ship. Kobe finishes up tying his knot. Helmeppo can't tie a knot to save his life, and Kobe's like, "Let me do this. Let me do this." And Kobe does it, and Garp instantly was like, "Who did it?" And Helmeppo thought someone was going to get in trouble, so he, points to Kobe, and Garp notices. He's like, "There's something about Kobe," and takes him to his office. And then they get to talking about, his experience at sea with Alvita and how he had to do this in order to survive. Um, and you can tell that Garp kind of starts taking a liking to Kobe.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool to kind of see Kobe's side of things, because as me and Garrett were talking, a lot a lot is kind of different in this live action. We don't really see Garp as much in the anime as we do in this live
Mm-hmm.
action, nor do we see Kobe's journey. So it was very encouraging to kind of see how Kobe made his mark in this world and how he kind of starts growing. And it's almost kind of interesting to see his story alongside of the Straw Hat Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize he was going to have as much value to this story as what he actually has. It's been pretty cool to see.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Because in the anime, you get like a 1, 5, or 6 episode uh little spin-off where it shows when after Garp had taken Helmeppo and Kobe, they start their training with Bogard and Garp. Um, and that's it. Like
yeah,
that's it until you get into like like that is the last time you see really Garp or Kobe and Helmeppo. So for them to be as present in the show all the way through is pretty cool right now.
that is. And you did just mention Bogard, and I would like to make a statement. My wife made a comment about Bogard being so sharp, quick, and agile movements, and if you watch him, he is very quick to turn and look at things, almost like sporadic instances. And it's funny because I went back and kind of compared it to the anime, and he is like that in the anime.
Mhm.
They got that down to the T. They got Bogard down to the T to check out his like sporadic movements throughout this live action. That's how in depth they are on this. Isn't that
And
weird?
it makes sense because like military, it's very on the
Mm-hmm.
on the point. Um and it's pretty cool. And also real quick, Armand Alcamp.
Okay.
Alcamp is Bogard in the One Piece
Okay.
live action.
Thank you for looking that up. That
Yeah.
is cool.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I do think he portrays our solitude styled uh oh what is so Garp is
He
the
it's
vice admiral. What is
he's
he?
like he's just an officer from the world government. I
Okay.
think he's a captain.
I do like him though, and I think that he plays that pretty well. I like that. Very
He's staff
serious
officer.
staff officer. Okay.
Yeah.
So really cool to see Bogard in action. Um and after we leave the ship, after we go on to our next scene, we're moving over to the village. Zoro's looking at the bounty board. He's realizing that Buddy's worth a lot of money and that they could have made money off that. This is the time in the show that I have really started to notice a fishbowl effect. And I don't know if you were as cautious about that as I was. I started paying attention. When you start watching these really close up shots of people, it's
Hmm.
almost like the lens kind of rounds around them. So it's very focused on them, and the background kind of looks curved.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was like that on the first and second episode as much, but I really, really noticed it in this episode a lot. And maybe it's because we got a lot more close ups, or maybe that was just the director's choice of that episode or something of the matter. I'm not too
Hmm.
sure, but it was really cool to see. Um, you know, speaking of Buddy, after we kind of see this little bounty, we'd kind of come back to Buddy from that last episode. We see him trying to get all of the kinks sorted out. He's getting his legs, his arms, all of the pieces back together. And in walks our very first Fishman. So I know a lot of people at first were like, what the heck is that guy? He looks bizarre. Well, he is a fishman. He is part man, part fish. I don't know how they could have portrayed them any differently than what they did.
I
Because
think
I
they did a
mean,
good job.
yeah, I think so too, but they have to be kind of odd looking, I guess. I don't know. It couldn't be like a person with a fish head, which is funny because that's actually what Luffy thought they were prior to seeing them. Just not in the live action. I would have loved that scene though.
That would be funny.
But we see our first fish man. I'll go ahead and say his name. I don't think it's gonna ruin anything. Kurobi shows
Hmm.
up. He tells Buddy that Arlon wants a word. Buddy does not care, does not want to deal with him at this time. He turns around to fight him. And Kurobi, with his fishman karate, absolutely rocks Buddy. End of scene.
Done.
Done
Buggy's
deal.
dead. Buggy's dead by Fishman Karate.
Buddy, whatever you want to call
What? Bogey,
him. Bodie.
Red Nose. But
Oh,
anyways, so from there we get back into Syrup Village, which apparently is known for its shipwrights and shipbuilding, where we see our crew kind of walking around a shipyard, and Nami proposes how they're going to get a ship because they need a ship, and of course they have no money. So Luffy kind of seems surprised. Nami's plan is to completely steal a ship. And Luffy's saying that he can convince someone to give them a ship, but it has to be a specific ship. The ship has to call to him because it's as much of a crew member as the actual crew itself. And he's walking around and sees the ship with the sheep mast, and instantly Luffy's like, that's the one. Found it. And pop, out comes Usopp, who is there. Looks like he's doing a little bit of repairs, kind of cleaning the ship. Um, but Usopp, they ask it. Luffy's like, "Hey, we want to buy this." Like, I'm not a salesman. And funny thing is, he asked him, they're like, "Well, what is your job?" And he said, "Barnacle removal team. Dot something something something."
Executive chief of Barnacle. Yes,
And Zoro
something.
goes, "So he scrapes barnacles and cleans bird shit." Which was, it's funny. He's like a little janitor for the ship, pretty much in
Yeah.
the shipyard. But Usopp says that he can take him to the person who can get him this ship, and off they go to meet Kaya, Usopp's best friend, who owns the ship, the entire shipyard.
Mhm. And as we're heading on to the scene, we get another scene change, and here's where I start thinking that we start getting very deliberate back and forth scene changes. I think on episode 3, we're starting to just get bam, 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 scene, 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 scene. It feels very fast. And it feels very deliberate that they're trying to build Kobe and
Mm-hmm.
Helmeppo alongside of the pirates.
Mm-hmm.
But we get back to Garp and Kobe, and Garp ends up trying to get Kobe to play this game with him, and I had to look this up because I wasn't sure what it is. It's called Gamoku. I hope I pronounced that correctly. They sit down and they play this game, and it is similar to like Connect Four. The idea is it's a very highly strategic game where you have to get 5 in a row, and obviously, um, it's very complicated. It's a massive board. I have seen it before in several shows and never knew what it was. So
Mm-hmm.
very cool to find out. and it was just a little builder. Like it really didn't do anything other than start the games, them talking, chit chat, and whatnot. And then obviously we move back to the next scene. Here comes the back and forth playment of Straw Hats, Marines, Straw Hats, Marines. So you want to?
Yeah, and so from there we finally arrive at the mansion and we see the chef and the maid, and instantly they're very off put by Usopp. You can tell Usopp is a very frequent flyer to Kaya's residence. Um, but he shows up, and Kaya shows up with Claudador, I think. Kalahador, I think, is the butler's name. Um, and
Plador?
begs for
Plador?
Usopp and his friends to come in and have dinner instead of turning them away, because Kaya and Usopp again are best friends. Apparently, they've known each other for forever. So as they're getting there, you also come to find out that it is going to be Kaya's birthday. And so they go inside, and you see Usopp give her birthday present, which is her giant pearl that he got from fighting a massive goldfish. Um, and then you kind of Usopp goes into a story very Usoppish, and Kai gets to getting sick, and she has to drink a special tea to keep her because we didn't kind of really go into this. Kai is extremely sick always and has been very sick and fragile and ill for a long time, and this tea is the only thing that makes her better or not cough, I guess.
Right. And
Um,
to kind of tie in with what you were saying, the chef and the
Maid,
maid, they are within the anime, but they have such a
yes,
different role. Like they're not
yes,
even in the mansion at this point, but their names are Bucci and Sham. Um,
wow,
Sham. Wow, nice. Sham is actually a whole lot different
mm-hmm,
um, from the anime. I believe they casted somebody completely different than what was shown. So
mm-hmm,
that was probably one of the first um, major differences that I had noticed within the casting. Uh, sometimes in a few of the episodes coming up, you'll notice a few people are just flat different.
mm-hmm.
But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
to look up their names because God, I could not remember them.
No, you're good. And at that time, they got invited for dinner, and the butler Kalahador. I'm very sorry. I'm probably butchering that. He's like, you will change and you will bathe before dinner. So the crew is all in one room, and it's a massive like closet. And so they're all picking out outfits, and Nami's like this one or this one or this one, and Luffy's just constantly, you look like Nami. And something
Clearly
has
not what she wanted to hear. She
no,
wanted to hear like, "Oh, you look great," and he's going, "Yeah."
but something had caught Zoro's attention, and he kept asking if the butler seemed familiar to everybody else. You notice that in one of the scenes, like prior, like they're walking past each other, he sees them, and Zoro just kind of stops
Mm-hmm.
and does a second look, and then goes, and then that's where we end up there.
Yeah, and you're right. He definitely has a little suspicion. After they even get done changing, well, during the time that they're changing, he asked them, does he look familiar to you? And they had no answer. They didn't know him. They get done with that. They start the party. They're out there about to have dinner, and he even asked the butler if he's frequented funky bar,
The funky bar.
and something else. And he's hinting, he's prodding. He knows that he knows Tlador from somewhere, but he can't figure out who he is. So I found that very interesting to see. I also found it very interesting that uh, you know, Usopp, Luffy, Nami, they're all eating these little treats and this is that and I love
Mhm.
this and Zoro, you have to try this, and he's over here with the alcohol and he goes, I'm good.
He said, "I've got all the dinner I need right here,"
Yeah,
and
and
just
he's
starts
just
drinking.
drinking his dinner, which is funny because that feels so time skip Zoro. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like you get a lot of that in the time skip. more so than you do early on, which I
Yeah.
think is funny. Um, Flip flop in the story here. We go back to the Marines. We're back with Kobe. Um, he finally I'm gonna remember this name. He finally beats Garp in Gamoku. And it was after the prodding, after Garp said, "You gotta just stop thinking about it and act. You just gotta do it." He finally beats Garp. Garp says, "Great, that's awesome. You finally beat me again. Do it again."
Mm-hmm.
And he finally gets to the point that he's making Kobe sit there and actively train his mind, actively work at trying to beat Garp. And I find it very interesting. It's almost like Garp is one-on-one training
Mm-hmm.
Kobe, trying to get Kobe ready for something that Kobe doesn't even know that he's gonna do, type thing. So it's really cool to see Garp build
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah. It's been cool.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we flash back again to the crew, and we finally meet Mary, who is the lawyer slash financial advisor slash longest friend of Kaya and her late parents.
And
He lets her
clearly the inspiration behind the
the
mast
ship.
of the ship.
The ship. Yes. And he just talks about how he handles the family's finances and how they've been friends for uh, forever. And then at that time, that's when again Zoro is trying to fill out the butler and trying to figure out where he knows this guy from. Um, Everyone is eating, and Kaya asks for, I think it's a piece of fish. She wants to try the fish, and Claudor is like, no, strictly your diet. It has to be this. And they set down her special soup that she has to have for her 18th birthday. That's part of her medicine and everything like that. And at that time, Luffy does what Luffy does, tells everyone that they are pirates. He found out that Kaya owns the shipyard and is drinking water, drinking, I guess, champagne or wine, eating food, stands up on the table and is begging Kai to sell them the ship with the sheep mast. Um, and I mean, he is like stepping on plates, stepping over plates. I mean, he has made an absolute scene. The butler is pissed. Um, Not only is it ruining his plans, but I mean, Luffy is just taking over this entire
Typical
moment.
Luffy fashion.
Yeah.
Typical.
Just like eating, talking, walking to Kaya on the dinner table in their mansion. I mean, this is like a very high class family and just doing that. And he promises Kaya at the very end of all of it that he will treat the ship like a member of the crew.
Which I found very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Such a Luffy thing to do. It is, everything to him is important. If
Yeah.
it's important to you, it's important to me. And if it's
Mm-hmm.
important to my friends, I'm dropping everything to have that or
Yeah.
to do that for them. Very cool to see him step out and say like, "Hey, you know what? If you let me have this ship won't see hard days because I'm gonna take care of it," type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool to see. As soon as we get into that, after he's basically begging her that to let him have it, she ends up getting to a coughing fit. Her and Claudor have to go somewhere else, and we get a scene change yet again. Back to Garp. Kobe has finally beaten him so many times that when Helmeppo comes in there and says that they have found a what
The
is
wreckage of a sloop.
of a sloop. Thank you. Found the wreckage of a sloop, which was in fact the Straw Hat sloop before it was sunk. And they proceed to say that he has got to be out here on this Syrup Village, or what's the island called?
The Gecko
The
Islands.
Gecko Islands. He's out there on Gecko Islands looking around, maybe Syrup Village. Uh, can we send out a search party? And of course, Garp says, yeah, except I don't want you to lead it. I want Kobe to lead it. And he sends out Kobe as the leader of the landing party, which are our little hero Kobe does not feel he is equipped for.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting to see the difference of opinions between him and Helmeppo on that. Obviously, Helmeppo believes that he should be the one in charge,
Mhm.
believes that he has every right to be in charge, and Kobe's not sure if he should be in charge.
Mhm.
So, your typical testing of certain characters. It's very cool to see. It's very cool to see. But
Of course,
after
yeah.
that, we just move straight back into our main story with our heroes, the Straw Hats.
And so dinner is finished. Everyone finds themselves kind of in their rooms doing whatever. And Claudor and Mary are down in the wine cellar talking about Kaya's birthday and how Claudor has spoke with Kaya and it's in her wishes that he takes over the rights to the shipyard and the family fortune pretty much, and that Kai insists that he talks to Kai, and Mary insists that he personally speaks to Kaya about the situation just to make sure before he, the lawyer and financial advisor, signs everything over to Claudor. At that point, Claudor turns around and puts on a glove. You don't really know what it is, and the next thing you see are like five little daggers stabbed through the back of Mary, and Mary falls to the ground dead.
What?
And that is the first keynote that Claudor is not who he says he is.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it.
Meow, this is crazy.
Meow. This is wow. Did you just come up with that? Because that
I
was
did.
good. That
I
was
did.
really good.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, um, Kuro leads the Black Cat Pirates, and that was just a very good liner. So, congrats, Garrett. I humbly applaud that. That was really funny.
And so with that, we go ahead and say, um, so you've seen the wanted poster and you heard about how Axan Morgan himself killed Captain Kuro, and we have come to find out that Captain Kuro was not dead all along. He, I believe, ended up actually being shipwrecked to Surat Village and pledged his life and allegiance to Kaya's family. Um, and after finding out all about this and Kaya's parents passing away, he was going to be the butler, and here we are.
To which the anime has a different approach to this, and we'll get to that at the end of this because I don't want to spoil the momentum, but be aware. I'll go into that afterwards. Um, so of course we find out that Mary, has been stabbed, and Claudor is not who he says he was. We swing back over to Buddy again. Ironically, it's somebody else. And in walks a new fishman, to which we later find out is the one and only Arlong. We see him for the first time this season. They take off the knapsack over um, Budgie's face, and he finally sees that Arlong is there, and Arlong has come to um, basically just figure out why Buddy is not doing what Arlong wants him to do, and kind of be a little bit of a manipulation and kind of kick his butt at the same time. Buddy basically sells out Luffy and his crew, says that they're the reason they've got your map, the map that I was trying to get for you, Arlong. And if you
Mm.
want that map, I'll get you Straw Hat. And so, of course, we don't see any more. We see the knapsack go over Buddy's head and lights out. Moving on to the next scene where we go back to Luffy walking outside of his room and seeing Zoro walking around in the hallway. Um, you want to hop? You want me to
Yeah, yeah.
continue or okay?
It don't matter. So yeah, Luffy walks out of his room, sees Zoro, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And Zoro's like, "I need a drink." Luffy's like, "I need a midnight snack," and so it's perfect. So they take off to head to the kitchen,
To which
and
Zoro was going the wrong way if you hadn't. Picked up on that.
Always does.
Always.
And so it's just trust Luffy's nose. They find their way to the kitchen. Luffy's finding them snacks. Zoro's looking for the liquor, and Usopp comes down. And they're just kind of or actually Usopp's already there.
Yes. Yes.
And he's just shooting little like
Popcorn
popcorn
kernels.
kernels onto a pan to ricochet them into this little pot. Um, they get to doing some chit chatting, and Zoro and Usopp go down into the wine cellar. All while Nami is upstairs, deciding she's gonna steal all kinds of crap from the house. Finds herself to this room, walks in with a pillowcase.
Before you get too much further, don't forget about what Luffy and Usopp talked about
Oh yeah,
prior to
I
them going
totally
down.
forgot about that. Before they go down, they're talking about, and Usopp is talking about how he wants to be a brave warrior and how he's such a good shot. Um, and he mentions his dad is a notorious pirate named Yesop. And Luffy just was like, Yesop, the great, like the marksman. And he's like, yes. And comes to find out, Yesop, who's part of Shanks's crew that Luffy has known for quite some time, Luffy has known Usopp's dad longer than Luffy has known Usopp.
Yeah.
They came to that realization. Then we go, my apologies,
You're good.
to Nami kind of raiding the house a little bit, silver candlesticks, gold bowls, finds her way to this room. She's about to go hit a lick in this room, and it's Kaya's. And
Oof.
so then Kaya is not upset at all, and then her and Kaya start to have a pretty big heart to heart. And as back to, you see Zoro and Usopp go into the wine cellar. They're looking for the booze because that's all Zoro wants right now. Picks up a bottle of wine, looking at it. It's like, this will do. And Usopp does his typical, I think the good stuff's over here, trips and falls over the body of Mary. Freaks out. And Koro pops up out of nowhere. How big of an issue this is, and da 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 da. Zoro draws his swords, goes to attack, gets knocked out cold, and Usopp escapes through like a little window on the side and runs into town screaming, the pirates are here, the pirates are here. And unfortunate timing for our boy Usopp.
Because nobody believes him.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely nobody. After so many years of crying wolf, the wolf was finally there and nobody cared.
Mhm.
Not only that, but we see the scene of the neighbor who we had saw earlier, um, basically grabs young Usopp in a flashback, walks him across the street, opens the door, pushes him inside, and tells the mom to get Usopp under control. We find out that Usopp has been saying that the pirates were coming in hopes of letting his mother know that his father was going to come back at some point. And in that very scene, we see the last little hurrah of Usopp's mother as she dies in bed with Usopp sitting there holding her hand. Only to see the flashback end and Usopp standing right there in front of the door where he stopped running, and he says, I just want somebody to believe me. Why won't anybody believe me? The pirates are here. If only somebody would believe me. And lo and behold, Kobe is standing in front of him and says, I believe you. And there is the end of that episode.
It was a good one.
I will say we did kind of miss a scene. Zoro and Mary have been picked up by the butler and the maid. They have been deposited into a well and left there to be dying or dead.
Mhm.
So here we are at the end of this episode. We're probably going to go ahead and hop into episode 4. But before I do so, I do want to make a comment. So we were talking about what happened to Kuro. Well, in the anime, he had another character that was not evident in this show,
Mm-hmm.
basically hypnotize everybody and tell um, the whole crew to believe that this one individual was actually Kuro. And so then when the Marines came and arrested, they took this fake Kuro, and
And he
he
escaped.
was arrested and killed, and then Kuro escaped. But I believe it was a little different this time around, or at least we didn't really find out.
Mm-mm. This one you
So,
just know he's Kuro of the Thousand Plans, or
yes.
that's what he was, anyways. And yeah,
But basically
that's our bad
outsmarted
guy.
everybody. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's our bad guy.
yeah,
That's our bad guy.
he's smart.
So, I guess without further ado, we'll hop into episode 4. Kind of a bang for your buck episode. You know, you get episode 3 and episode 4 all in one simple YouTube podcast video. Boom. You're welcome.
Boom.
Episode 4. The pirates are coming. This episode was an hour and 2 minutes, and the summary for this episode was: with his friends in danger, Claudor's plan in motion, Usopp seeks help from the Marines. The blades clash when a fierce battle erupts at Kaya's mansion. Dun dun dun.
So again, we get another sick start to the episode. Title screen comes around, and the Jolly Roger is none other than Zoro himself with the 3 swords and a skull. And the eye, what was the eye?
The eye
Um,
was the sword, the white sword that we see, and it is
sorry,
actually known as the Wano
the
Ichi.
the Watto. Jeez, Louise,
What? The Wado?
we literally just had it earlier.
Yeah. My notes literally say Wado Ichi something.
Watto Ichimonji.
Ichimonji.
Yep.
The
Which
sick white blade that we see.
which you're going to learn about in this episode finally. So like Dan was saying, so the episode ends off with Usopp begging for someone to believe him. And we start right back with Usopp telling the Marines and Kobe and Helmeppo that Claudor is Captain Kuro. And Helmeppo is just denying it because his father, Axane Morgan, was the one who captured and killed Kuro years prior. So Helmeppo is like, this guy's lying. Total liar.
Which
Not
makes
happening.
sense because the safe that they stole from Axan Morgan even had the bounty poster of Kuro in it, which
Mm-hmm.
I guess we can assume was the trophy
Yep.
for Axan Morgan. Very, very interesting to see, and funny how it kind of correlated into the next story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, right off the bat, after Usopp's telling everybody about what Kuro has done, everything like that, we kind of get a flashback back to the mansion. What's going on? Of course, Zoro is still down in the well. Usopp was running around. He talked to the Marines. Nami's still in there. Obviously, she got done with her little heart to heart with Kaya, and on the last episode, she as she was leaving, Kaya made sure to say, "Don't forget your pillowcase." To which she grabbed her, whatchamacallit, her treasures that she stole, and she actually went back and put them all away. Well, she finally shows up in the kitchen. She finds Luffy passed out after eating all of this disgusting blue-looking soup,
Which is poison.
which was definitely poison and disgusting to look at. So I don't know why you would eat it. So, she hears people coming, and of course she plans, maybe I should hide real quick. So she hides in the kitchen, and she listens to the plans that Bucci and Sham, and then later Kuro are talking about. Basically, they talk about what they're going to do with Luffy. They're going to go get rid of him. Uh, Zoro's taken care of. Usopp's running away. They won't ever believe. And they basically tell of their plans. about at 12 o'clock when she turns 18, they're going to kill Kaya because she's 18. Which is funny to think about now. They totally could have killed her at like
Well,
7.
18 is when she can legally sign over the rights to the
You're
yard.
right. She would have to sign it and then he
Yeah.
would kill her. You're right. You're totally
Yeah.
right. Um, but anyways, I lost my place. I'm sorry. Brings question. So she hears all of this. They plan to pick up Luffy and to just drag him out, and the doorbell rings. And so, of course, Kuro, not sure who it is, finally goes to the door, opens the door, and he finds the one and only Kobe and Usopp and the rest of the Marines, and basically just undermines all of Usopp's plan. Says, no, I'm not a pirate. Their pirates are here, though. The Straw Hats, we've got this one taken care of. No, he's known as the liar. Don't believe him. Basically, the wolf in sheep's clothing convinced everybody else, don't listen to this guy. He's full of it. He doesn't know. Whatever. Move on. And of course, Usopp runs away. His plan undermined, made him look even worse, made him look even more like a liar. They end up going back, grabbing Luffy, who is still passed out from all this blue nasty poison, and they just give him to the Marines. And the Marines take him and they roll on.
And Luffy was also drunk.
Yeah.
And he was turned over to the Marines by Kuro and his fellow assailants. After that, we get to some pretty big spots here. So Zoro is trying to escape the whale. He's got like a little hook and he's trying to throw it over to give himself a rope to pull himself up. And with that, we get a flashback of Zoro fighting another fellow swordsman. You see him on this mat and they're fighting with bamboo swords. I forgot what there's like a term for those kinds of swords. But
It's
just
not like a
practice
practice.
stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, they are fighting, they're firing, and Zoro ends up getting whooped by a little girl named Kuina. Um, Zoro then just states that it's because they're not actually fighting, they're like practicing and training, and that they need
Shinai.
to use
It's
what's
called
that?
it's called a Shinai.
There we go. But Zoro's saying he's only getting beat because they're not using actual blades. And with that, she says, fine, we will fight with blades. I think it was like tomorrow. So we will fight with blades tomorrow. She said, and if you're going to beat me, be prepared to kill me. And then after that, we go right back to the present.
So finally, Usopp, after running away, sneaks straight up to Kaya's window, knocks on the window, not the door, and basically gets his way in there, starts telling her that Clawdor is not who he says he is. Don't call for him. Don't yell for him. You got to leave. You got to get out of here. She ends up smacking him, saying, I'm not doing what you're telling me to do. Says there's no chance. You're mistaken. He's not a pirate. Moving on. We realize that Clawdor, we go back to a scene with him. We realize that him or Kuro, we'll just go with Kuro. Kuro realizes that Nami is free around the house. He ends up locking down the house after seeing that Sham has been knocked out by Nami, who escaped from the kitchen. She's running upstairs trying to get to all of her friends to let them know what happened. And he locks down the house with like shutters and stuff that keep pirates out. Well, now they're keeping the pirates in. We see the door barge open. Everybody expected Kuro to show up, and boom, it was Nami. Nami shows up. She's talking to Usopp and Kaya. Kaya finally realizes what's going on, and then they decide to finally disperse, try to get out of the house. About this time, we see this phenomenal scene, very horror movie-esque, but also like superhero suit-up style, of Bucci and Sham breaking out their iconic anime outfits, and then Kuro dons the claws that he typically wears.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a funny setup to see them like gearing up for a battle that they've long awaited, and they're kind of, it's funny. It's weird to see the Black Cat pirates in action, and you finally realize how cat-like they really are.
Mm-hmm. Me.
Sure.
Okay, and so with that, it's very horror-ish, like very horror movie
Yeah.
vibes. Um, and with that, uh, Usopp knows his way around the house almost as good as anybody because he used to use these passages to sneak in and out. Since he wasn't allowed there, and so with that, after everything's all said and done, and the shutdown has happened. Kaya reveals that there is another lockdown mechanism in her parents' room in the east wing that they can use to hopefully open the shutters to get out of the house.
And
So with that,
I'll be honest with you. I had a hard time remembering that that was her parents' room. I thought that was just a spare room for the longest time.
mm-hmm,
And then after a little more investigation, a little more talking about it, I talked about it with my wife, and she said, "No, it's got to be the parents' house. There's picture frames of parents' house, parents' room. There's
yeah,
picture frames of them. It's all their old furniture, and it made sense. I finally realized that. I don't know how I didn't catch it the first time, but it made sense.
mm-hmm. And so they're sneaking through the hall or the servants' hall, which is inside the walls of the house. That way, servants were never really seen. Um, with that, Kuro hears them in the walls and throws his hands with the claws into the walls, trying to pierce the body of the poor unfortunate soul whoever ended up on the other side of that.
Mm-hmm. And just as you said, just a few sentences ago, very horror movie esque. You
Mm-hmm.
totally get this vibe that it's a dark house. There's the scary monster guy running around with claws trying to kill you. Very interesting to see. But the next scene, as they're running through the servants' hall, we see Zoro back in the well, climbing ever so valiantly yet again. He's been up, down, up, down. Basically, we see this flashback of Kuina again. He gets his butt absolutely whooped by her with real swords, and I mean it's a sweet fight scene,
Mm-hmm.
very well um, choreographed, very neat to see. Uh, Zoro with the two swords, Kuina with her one, absolutely at a disadvantage against her. We get the iconic scene that Kuina says. She says, "One day you'll beat me," and he keeps saying, "No, I won't beat you. You're gonna be da-da-da-da." And then he said, uh, "You're gonna be like the greatest swordsman in the world, and then I'm gonna beat you, and I'm gonna be the greatest swordsman." And she hits him with, "Girls can beat boys, but women cannot beat men." Talking about when she grows older and he grows older, he's going to be faster, he's going to be stronger, and he's going to overtake her. And
Mm-hmm.
he is going to be more talented at some point. And Zoro does not see that. I find it really
Mm-hmm.
cool that Zoro keeps saying, "No, that's not how it's going to be. You got to make a promise with me right here, right now, that one day either I'm going to be the strongest swordsman in the world, or you're going to be the strongest
Mm-hmm.
swordsman in the world." To which she said, "Swordswoman," which is
Mm-hmm.
funny because Zoro would totally butcher that. But anyways, very very cool line. It is from the anime. It was very well adapted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we basically see that promise between the two rivals and how Zoro was going to one day hopefully beat her.
Because in the anime, Zoro talks about, like, if that's the case, he said, then what kind of swordsman really is he? That the only reason he can beat her is because he was lucky enough to be born this way,
Right.
and she was unlucky enough to be born that way. And Zoro's just like, hey, he's like, it's an even playing field. He said if that's the case, he said that's not like right for me to claim it.
Right.
So yes, like you said, it was really well put um, in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but after that, so we go right back into current times. And Kobe, Helmeppo, and the two guards are having their disagreements about what's really going on back at Kaya's house, as they are escorting Luffy back to the ship. At that time, they stop because Luffy says something, and Helmeppo believes that Luffy is. I'm trying to think. Oh no, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here.
You're good.
I'm getting ahead of myself. After that, we go back to the house, where Kaya, Nami, and Usopp have found their way into Kaya's parents' room, and they're looking around. Kaya had not been in there since her parents had passed away, where they unveil this giant painting of her father, and her mother when Kaya was little. She moves the painting aside, and behind the painting is where they have the device to open the shutters, turn the power back on. And as they do it, Kuro hears them, sees that the power is trying to be restored, and makes his way to the family's or the parents' room.
Mm-hmm. Um, to which I didn't put a lot of emphasis in looking at the painting, but did you get the feeling that Kaya's dad kind of looked like a similar person to Mary? Not like spot on, not like he wasn't Mary, obviously, but
Like a cheap guy.
he kind of looked sheepish.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was interesting. I don't think I remembered anything from the anime. I'll have to go back and
I
look.
don't think you saw anything about him.
I don't think so either. And Syrup Village was so long ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. I wondered. I'll need to go back and look at that. Um, so back to Zoro. We finally see him taking his way up the well. He's of course gone up, gone down, gone up, and he's getting closer to the top. We finally get another flashback, and he's talking to his sensei, and I can't remember the sensei's name. We didn't get it in the live action, but it was in the anime.
You get the last name, but that's it.
Yes. Okay. He's talking to him. The sensei comes and, just in resentment and just heartbreak, and tells him Kuina is dead. Um, I I like the fact that in this live action, he said she's dead, and that's it. There's no other ifs, ands, or buts. Whereas in the anime, they said she died. She fell down the stairs.
She fell down the stairs and freaking died.
Which, yes, you could
You
totally
can
fall
do
down
that.
the stairs and die. But it was
Just
just such a
very
she
weird.
died to that, like it was
Like after
something
they
you didn't
promised to
expect.
become the world's strongest swordsman, she misses a step and literally dies.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Queena, first stairs, stairs one, Queena, never again.
Oh, down the stairs one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, so we see the flashback. We see that how he takes it. We see the funeral and how basically they come to honor her, and everybody takes their seat, and Zoro comes and he bows to the sensei, bows to Kuina's funeral and ashes, I assume, and then he proceeds to ask the sensei for the sword that Kuina used, because he promised her that he would be the greatest swordsman in the world, and that way he was going to use that sword to become the greatest swordsman in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a little different from the anime, because I remember the sensei giving it to him, telling
He
him,
begged Zoro to take it. That
make
way
sure.
Queena could be a part of the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting to see the difference there. It was a total flip flop, and the sensei
Either way
almost,
fits.
it does.
Mm-hmm.
The
I think
sensei
fits.
almost was hesitant to give it to him, but eventually, kind of nodded his approval, and he took the sword with him. We finally see Zoro eventually climbing out of that well. Eventually, he finishes. He gets that sword. He climbs over the top of the well, and he gets out of there finally after half the episode of being down there.
Yeah. So he gets out of the well, and Luffy is having his talks with Helmet, but Luffy is getting just violently sick from this soup, this concoction that he had eaten. He's thrown up everywhere. He had thrown up all over Helmeppo. And you hear like a in the background, and everyone turns around, and there's Zoro with the two guards on the ground. Says, "What's up, haircut?" Talking to Helmeppo, and rocks him,
Absolutely
knocks him out,
knocks him sinless. Just
knocks
with
him
like the
out.
casual smack, you know, like an easy punch, not a like a rear back. I'm punching with all of
Mm-hmm.
my
Yeah, just a
heart.
little ink.
Yeah.
Luffy's like, "We're going back to the house. We got to get everybody." He's like, "I know what's going on." Da 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 da. They go to take off, and Kobe's like, "Luffy stays like by the power of the Marine Corps and the Navy." He's like, "You are put under arrest." He's like, "I'm taking you into custody," and Luffy is pretty much like, "Try me." He's like, "I'm going to save my friends." He said, "You do what you want." He's like, "But don't get in my way." He's like, "Try it." He's like, "You can try to arrest me, but it's not gonna happen." So Helmeppo, the two guards are knocked out. Kobe is left there alone, and off Zoro and Luffy go, where they raise the shutters of the front door, block it with a rock, break up in or walk into the house, and they decide they're going to split up. Luffy's going to go upstairs. Zoro's going to go downstairs and try to find out where their friends are.
Which another
Um,
case of muscle Zoro over there.
yeah,
Absolutely just picks up this heavy
pirate proof
pirate
shutter.
proof shutter like it was nothing.
Mm-hmm. So Usopp, Nami, and Kaya had been hiding in Kaya's parents' room this whole time as Kuro had let himself in. And Nami and Kaya grabs like a knife or like a letter opener
I think it was a letter opener.
and decides that she's done hiding. She is stronger than everyone thinks she is, and her and Nami take off only to instantly be caught by Kuro. As that happens, Usopp just does kind of the bravest thing he's done so far. Unhides himself, grabs his slingshot, shoots at Kuro, where Kuro ends up beating the brakes off of him, launching him into a corner. And the fight with Bucci and Sham start with Zoro, and Luffy finds his way into the parents' bedroom with Kuro, Nami, Kaya, and Usopp.
I have never once heard anybody say unhides themselves. That was funny.
I couldn't think of the right word, so I was just like, "We're gonna
Reveal
do
or
it."
yeah. But it was fine. I knew exactly what you meant. You
I didn't
said
even
it.
realize I said unhides himself.
You said it and I thought,
Y'all heard it
what?
first here, folks. He unhides himself.
Oh, that was good. That was really good. But
Oh,
yes, you were exactly right. We see Sham and Bucci fighting Zoro, and we see Luffy eventually finding Kuro and basically ready to throw some hands back and forth. Um, I lost my place. Uh, Basically, they get into this little like altercation. Obviously, Kuro's so much faster. He's blazing fast. He's kind of like pushing Luffy around, leaving little cuts behind. Luffy can't even keep up with his speed. They get into this conversation. He starts talking about all of these different, crewmates and this and that. And he said, crewmates are just for the taking. You know, I can't tell you how many crewmates I've killed along the way. If the crewmates die, I just get new crewmates. And of course, that doesn't vibe with Luffy. He's totally against that. He's like, nah, my crewmates are. I'm here for them. They're here for me. He even goes as far as to say, being a pirate is about adventure and freedom. And I'm trying to remember what line led him to saying that. I believe it was something with Kuro.
because Kuro was saying you can never be free with a bounty on your head. He's like, you're
Yes.
never actually free. You're on the run constantly, afraid the next pirate or the next, Marine is going to get you. He said
Yeah.
you can never truly be free.
So, very interesting to see. Being a pirate is about adventure and freedom. We shoot right back after that scene over to Zoro. We're seeing this awesome choreographed fight. He's sliding around, climbing stairs, jumping stairs, kicking butt. We see one of the we see Sham jump off of Bucci, do this really cool, like flying through the air move. Looks like it does nothing. She rolls down the stairs, and then all of a sudden she pulls out Zoro's Wado Ichimoji sword, the white sword, from behind her back and sticks it into the wall beside her. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I backed up in that episode and rewatched it and paused it several times. She didn't fall down the stairs with the sword. It just kind of appeared.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was probably just due to safety, but it
Yeah.
still was like, that doesn't make sense. She didn't have it. And you even still see it in his sheath, in the sword sheath.
Mm-hmm.
So it was funny. I also, this is just a random, I also saw a scene from the very first episode where Zoro rolled. When he
Mm-hmm.
rolled, the sheath of all three swords bent in completely, and I can't unsee it now. It was totally a like an oversight. Somebody just thought, nobody will notice. And now I can only see the sheaths of those swords just being folded as he rolls. So, but anyways, she takes that sword, plunges it into the wall beside her, and then we see Zoro come down the stairs, ready to just throw some more hands, just keep going. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, okay. I want to make sure I read this correctly before I went past myself. Um,
No, you're good.
so he comes down. He's throwing hands. He's obviously chopping away. Gets in between the two, knocking a few back and forth. Puts Bucci to the floor, and then bam, knocks out Sham with a punch while he's still holding the sword. Both of those two Black Cat pirates are out of the play, and that takes us back to Luffy.
So Luffy and Kuro have been exchanging words, kind of back and forth. And Luffy decides to close his eyes, and Kuro is finally thought that he has won. And he says Luffy's given up. He's like, no. He's like, I'm just listening. And Luffy like punches and brings it around this corner, rocks Kuro. And Kuro's very upset at that. He said he's never had a raid that has failed. And he's not going to be beaten now, and keeps aggressively swinging at Luffy, and Luffy is dodging and avoiding. And afterwards, he catches both hands of Kuro. He's like, what are you gonna do? He's like, we've got each other's hands. Luffy then stretches his head all the way back to the wall, and we get the infamous Gum Gum Bell. Boom, headbutt, and Kuro flies out of the window to the unknown, pretty much. And Luffy and the Straw Hats have won.
Which I don't know if you heard it, but there was totally a dong noise as he
Mm-hmm.
hits, ding, which I love. I love that. It was just a little nod to the sound that you always hear in the anime. But it was so cool to see Gum Gum Bell. So we've seen
Mm-hmm.
Pistol, we've seen Bazooka, and now we've seen
We've seen
the
Whip too.
Gum and Whip. We saw Whip.
Yeah.
You're right. We saw the Gum Gum Bell. So if we keep this up, we might see every move in the first season. So I hope so.
I'm
Anyways.
I'm hoping there's one at Arlong Park. I don't know if they'll do it or not, but I really hope they do it, because it was one of my favorites
Oh
from
yeah.
then.
So very cool episode. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not even
So we're
done with
not
that
done yet.
episode.
We're almost there. We're right there.
I guess I'll hop in right here. So we kind of get the finisher. Obviously, we survived the night. Kaya thanks the Straw Hats basically, and they say, "Too bad we can't turn in these Black Cat pirates. They get a bounty on them." She said, "Oh well, you need money. Well, it's okay. I'll just give you this ship. I'm gonna give you this ship. You name it, I'll give it to you." Which is so funny when Luffy looks over at Nami, and you can tell Nami is just so disappointed that she was wrong.
Because they made the bet that
Yes.
Luffy was going to get Kaya to give them the ship.
Yeah. So too good to see. Loved every bit of that. They end up going to the ship. Um, oh my
Shipyard.
gosh, shipyard. Thank you.
Hmm.
They're in the shipyard. They're talking about the ship that they want. They end up deciding that it is the one, and Luffy gives it the name, the Going Mary, which is iconic. It totally looks like Mary. It is exactly what I imagined, and I loved every bit of that boat. So afterwards, we see this boat. We see how everybody's excited. Usopp totally is a little left alone, doesn't know what he wants to do. He kind of walks away. Luffy says, "Hey, aren't you coming with us? You're coming on to our boat." And we missed the iconic line here. But he says he's unable to join. He's got to stay with Kaya. Basically, Kaya comes over there, tells him that he needs to go. He needs to enjoy it. He should go and be a great warrior of the sea. He should do his own thing. She ends up giving him a kiss. Didn't know Usopp had that riz like that.
He does.
He's that man. So, anyways, gives him a kiss, tells him goodbye. She can't wait to hear more stories of the great Captain Usopp. To which, as she had kissed him and said that, Nami and Zoro kind of turn their backs and don't look at it. And Luffy's standing there just confused and a little bizarre. Like, how could they say that? And he finally says, "They do know I'm the captain, right?" Which was a great line. I definitely enjoyed that, but we missed the iconic line from the anime where they invite Usopp to be on the ship, and Usopp says, "I get to be the captain, right?" And they go, "No, no, you don't." But pretty cool to see.
It was a nice ad.
Yeah.
After that, you see Kuro just kind of rowboating himself out into the middle of the ocean. The crew is downstairs. Usopp is showing off. He said, "I've got the Jolly Roger." He said, "I've got it already made up," and shows it. And of course, it is his Jolly Roger.
But a
Because
slight change
yes, with the
with the
the
small
nose,
nose. Yeah.
and then the of course his slingshot, because the Jolly Roger is supposed to embody the captain, not necessarily strike fear into its enemies, even though that's what a Jolly Roger's thing is supposed to do. And then boom, cannons are going off, they're getting shot at. And previously you see a little flash into Garp and Kobe exchanging, and Kobe's like, "Garp, I'm so sorry." He's like, "I let him go, they didn't make it, we didn't get Luffy, da 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 da." And Garp is like, "Son, you have done the perfect thing." He said, "You didn't find him." He said, "But you did what you did best." He said, "You flushed him out." And he hands Kobe the spyglass, and as you see the Mary pulling out of port, the cannons are firing, everyone's freaking out. They run upstairs, Luffy's ordering Usopp to load the cannons, and Nami, "Get us out of here." And I can't remember what happens first, but they're getting shot at. The railing gets blown away. Garp grabs a cannonball, throws it at Luffy. Luffy does his gum gum balloon, where he kind of takes the impact of the ball, or the cannonball, shoots it back, destroys the mast. Luffy sees Garp through their own spyglass and says, "Grandpa?"
To
And
which
then
everybody else was going, "Grandpa? What?" And then end of
to the
episode.
mist, and there they go.
Yeah.
Insert Village is done.
And Syrup Village is done. You know, we kind of discussed this prior to. I liked it. It was a good episode. Well, 2 episodes really, and it had a lot of qualities that made it separate itself from the original Syrup Village.
Yeah.
We got to talking about the fact that it had this horror movie vibe to it. And it was very much so. The villain chases you through the dark, scary night, run away, try not to die to the scary villain, which was almost perfectly up the alley of Emily Rudd, who is our Nami. uh, let it be known that she plus Jacob, who is Usopp, and our Kaya character, were running around doing a very phenomenal job of what felt like a horror movie. And that is just too funny to me that all of this experience that she has had through those horror movies
Mm-hmm.
played a
Still there.
significant role in this episode. So, I like all of the changes of
Mm-hmm.
Syrup Village. I will say that this was a whole lot easier to watch than the original Syrup Village.
Yeah,
There was a few key factors that were missing that were not in this that kind of threw me off, but I definitely enjoyed this.
for sure. For sure.
And a lot of the issues with the anime of Syrup Village is it is too long and
For what it actually
for
is.
what it actually is, and it doesn't capture you like some of these other arts do. And this being episode 3 and episode 4 did not stray me away from watching this anime, which was good
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I know an anime, this live action, because I know a lot of people get to that certain point in the anime and they kind of flop. They're like, oh, I don't know, this is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
So I definitely like the way that they went on this.
I've been enjoying it.
Oh
I've been
yeah.
enjoying the heck out of it a lot more than I thought I would.
I completely agree. And, I think we got to discuss in this, as we break down these episodes, gear it up, get ready for everything going on. It might be a good idea to kind of go back and revisit our pre-analyzation of what
Mm-hmm.
we talked about and kind of talk about some of the things we were wrong about, things we were right about, things that we saw that we loved, and things that we thought, well, that was better than I expected,
Yeah,
So,
for sure. For sure. We're
but
almost there.
almost there. That is the episode 3 and 4 recap. Garrett, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to that?
We'll see you in the next one.
See you in the next one. You know the deal. If you have any thoughts, concerns, questions, add ons, hit us up in the comments. Let us know. We would gladly check those out. And, if we're wrong about something, oh well, just let us know. We'll fix that. Um, we like to see everybody's comments on that. So we'll see you for episode 5 and episode 6 combined. Eat at Barati and the Chef and the Chore Boy. Deuces.
See ya.